Hi, good evening. My name is Brian Coy, and I am making a video for the educational class at Liberty. And please forgive my appearance. I spent the afternoon on a roof and got a little bit dirty up there, so please forgive me on that. I did my paper on Thomas Aquinas and Thomas Aquinas's views on religion, as well as philosophy, as well as his effect on education. So to begin, most of you know Thomas Aquinas from our readings, but as a reminder, he was a Dominican friar, and he was born into a wealthy family. And we know that he was very educated, and he was born at a time of the medieval period where not much was going on in terms of technological advances. Rome had just wrapped up its empire, and they were recently defeated. And so it was a time many view as being a time of dark ages in some cases. And because of the feudal system and the system between the serfs and the lords, a lot of anarchy was happening within the general population. And to find stability, the Roman Catholic Church stepped up. So the Pope, who was the Bishop of Rome, basically took over and became the I guess you could say the hierarchy that Aquinas grew up under. So Thomas Aquinas is quite interesting just because he was able to apply his viewpoints on what he learned from Aristotle and some of the other Greek philosophers, as well as what he learned during his time as a Dominican friar. And basically what he came up with was his idea of faith in reason. So in order for one to understand reason, you first have to have faith in God. And as you have faith, you are able to then understand and interpret how God has intended the society and the people around us to act. And the thesis of my paper, and what I believe is the most interesting part here, is the role of the Holy Spirit. So Aquinas says that through the Holy Spirit, one can know the will of God, and he can know ultimately how it is that God has intended his people to be or to act. And so I thought that was the most interesting part, and that's why I focused my paper on that and made that my thesis. So moving along here, one of the primary part of Aquinas that he took from Aristotle was the combination of dualistic properties. So for Aquinas, it became supernatural and natural, God and man. And for Aristotle, it was form and matter. And so that's where Aquinas made his primary focus, was on connecting those two through the Holy Spirit, through faith and through reason. One of the things that Aquinas took charge of was his role of scholasticism. And Aquinas proposed that all things exist and have a God-given essential nature independent of human thought. So a lot of this has to do with the metaphysical aspects of what Aquinas believes. So basically, Aquinas believes that man and objects, for that matter, have an essence. So they have a way of existing independently of what we think. Now, this contracts someone like Occam. I'm sure everyone's heard of Occam's razor. Basically, that is saying that the simplest way about going through something is usually the best. But this Aquinas' views on essence and his metaphysical reality, metaphysical realism and theistic realism, contradicts some of the thoughts of Occam and others. And so another thing that Aquinas said that was quite interesting was that teaching only occurs when someone is actually learning. And Aquinas was not a big fan of people that got up and did open-ended monologues, and we even see that today in our culture, how people basically like to get in front of the classroom and hear themselves speak. Aquinas actually thought that it was a good teacher when he could feel that the people who were in the audience were actually learning something. And I think that was another way of having a connection with those people, and I think that again goes back to his belief in God, taking care of others. Mm-hmm. So Aquinas put it that truth is something good, otherwise it would not be something desirable. And good is something true, otherwise it would not be intelligible. I think throughout this paper and throughout this work that I've done, understanding Aquinas and education, what has struck me the most is that Aquinas links the successfulness of education and the ability to learn as it relates to God. So he took his knowledge of philosophy, his knowledge of education, and combined it and came up with his theistic realism, which again combines faith and reason. And you must have both to ultimately know and ultimately learn. And I think what struck me the most was his relation to God and his knowing that in order for us to understand how God intended things to take place, we must first understand the will of God, and to do so, we must first go to the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit will indwell within us, again, by that preceding faith that we talked about earlier. So I really appreciated that viewpoint of Aquinas, and it really makes sense, and I think that is what has deepened my faith in my Christianity, is that it just seems like it would make sense. And so that is why I really valued what Aquinas said. All right, thank you. Looking forward to seeing everybody else's. Bye-bye.